The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community, as well as around the world. Coming up on today's show, we'll find out about local organizations working together to improve the quality of life and education for all children. Also, we'll recap major local, national, and international news with our political analyst, Mark Myritz. Then Councilman Fernando Cabrera will join us to talk about a newly launched crime map website that shows crime and what it means actually for the city of New York. And after that, we'll hear about the Emmy-nominated soap Gotham, none other than from two-time Emmy winner Martha Byrne. And finally, the creator and star of the comic web series Midtown will be with us. So we encourage you to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello everyone, I'm your host Darren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, December 18th, 2013. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We encourage you to stay connected to us. You can find out more about us on Twitter at BronxNet and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, on December the 8th, the NYPD launched a crime mapping website as mandated by legislation. The site shows monthly information by precinct and aims to facilitate the research of felony data in New York City. Here now to tell us more about this site is Councilman Fernando Cabrera, and we're pleased to be joined by Councilman Cabrera on the show. Thank you so much by phone. Councilman Cabrera, good to have you.
Well, it's always a pleasure being on your show, Darren.
Thank you. And so give us a little bit about this now. The new website definitely details crime. How do you feel like this will benefit New Yorkers?
You know, often in our community, we don't have accurate information. Sometimes we have urban legends about what's happening in our community. The crime map is going to enable people now to be able to identify exactly where in the community the crimes are taking place. And the crime map is going to be able, by address, by location, they're going to be able to know exactly what kind of crimes are taking place in a particular part of the neighborhood. And that way we can allocate resources. Nonprofits could come together, community leaders, elected officials will be able to now know, localize what kind of patterns are taking place in a particular part of the Bronx, or for that matter, in the city.
When you look at the legislation, the fact that it was passed, so many people voting in favor of it, what do you think this legislation actually says and means?
Well, I think what it's saying is that the community wants, number one, transparency from the city. The council members want more transparency as to what's really taking place. We don't want information to be filtered through the administration or through anybody else. We want the raw data in order for us to be able to make accurate assessment as to the condition of our community. And council members today, in order to make good decisions, you need to have the correct information. And this is going to enable us to have the correct information regarding the conditions and the problems of our community, and also to praise the good work. Sometimes we get labeled and stigmatized. We know about that in the Bronx, and now we'll be able to say, hey, look, we have seen the improvements. The labels that we have received have not been fair, and look at the improvement that is taking place, and now we could get that information right into the public, and the public, not only right here in New York City, but throughout the world, will be able to know for sure what is taking place in our community regarding crime.
Well, many people feel that this is a good faith effort on the part of the NYPD to actually reach out to the public to kind of bridge the gap between city residents and the NYPD. Would you agree the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I introduced this bill and got it passed because part of the reason that I felt that needed to get passed was because we wanted to have a better relationship with the NYPD. Whenever information is hidden, sense of conspiracy or why you're hiding information, this will enable now for community and the NYPD which trust.
We're having some technical difficulties. Councilman, are you still there? I'm trying to make sure we got you here on the line. You still there? Okay, well, we seem to have lost the councilman via some technical difficulties. We will take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll try to bring him back. If not, we will talk to our political analyst who will be right on deck. So we encourage you to stay tuned with us right here on Open. We'll be right back right after this.
So you heard of the Chewbacca fish?
Yeah.
Chupa who?
But you heard of the Chewbacca fish, haven't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And just so the people at home know, describe it real quick for us.
Describe what?
A fish that flies out of the water like almost like a rocket. It goes like 12 feet in the air, and then what happens is it comes back down before it hits the water. It like flies into people's neck and like starts biting you in the neck and in the face.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If it's out there, I'm gonna catch it on camera because I've been out here with my camera for years.
You know how the Chewbacca fish works? What happens is it shoots it like rockets out of the water like 5 feet in the air, and then as it jumps, and then what happens like 5 feet in the air, comes down like right before it hits the water, like it like does a one of these moves and flies into your neck and starts like biting you and stuff.
Nah, they don't have the fish like that out here, do they?
Yeah, that's the Chewbacca fish. That's what
they have it out here in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then what happens is right before it comes and hits the water.
Yeah, he tried to hit somebody.
Exactly.
Llegaron los caballos. ¡Huépame! Mira, yo te vi con ese teléfono. ¡Suelta el teléfono!
And hopefully before the show is over, we'll be able to bring you back Councilman Fernando Cabrera. We were having some technical difficulties, and of course we apologize, and we'll aim to get back to you shortly. But our next guest joins us now to break down all the latest stories from around local and national news. We welcome now political analyst and SUNY Maritime Professor Mark Meyritz, who joins us now on set. And Mark, you heard a little bit about us talking with the councilman about the new website.
Exactly.
And, a lot is being said about the police department in this present day. Also, the addition now of Mayor-elect de Blasio naming William Bratton to be police commissioner. First of all, your thoughts on Bratton as police commissioner?
An excellent choice. Pivotal decision for the mayor. Really a linchpin decision, key decision, because a lot of people were wondering to see what would de Blasio do about the issue with Ray Kelly, the police department, stop and frisk. All those issues are out there, and I think he made an excellent choice and a good leader who's been in New York, who has lots of good experience, and I think is also going to run the NYPD in a way that's going to steer it clear of issues in the future. I'm going to be optimistic about it.
You're going to be optimistic. Okay, because we heard a lot from the councilman talking about this new website and talking about the fact that crime now will be, you can see it on the website. Good move, bad move on the part of...
clearly controversial. I mean, the NYPD's job is to take care of us and keep us safe. And in order to do that, they have to be able to look at the information and allocate the resources based upon police techniques, not political techniques. So if the city council wants to get involved in running the NYPD, I think that's a risky thing. It's a good thing to get information. It's a good thing to know what's going on in your community, but it's another thing to take that data and use it as this mapping concept. And if it's just transparency, that's fine. But if it's going to be management of the NYPD function, then I think you end up with a sort of a brick wall and an issue politically, big issue, between the mayor and the city council.
Do you see this being an issue coming up down the line?
I see this as an issue. I mean, it's clearly an issue. The NYPD's job is to to run the security issue in the city. And they have to be able to look at the data, and they have the data and the resources to do that. It's perfectly fine for the city council, I think, to have the oversight, but I think it's going to be a political issue, but I don't know how it plays out yet. We have to see when the new mayor comes on board how he approaches this issue. I mean, it's an imponderable at the present time.
And we understand Mayor de Blasio making the choice now that he will live in Gracie Mansion after much pondering and thought. Obviously, for some people, it was a no-brainer that you almost had to do it. Did you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mayor Bloomberg sort of, you know, he's a billionaire, so he can live anywhere on Earth or on the moon as he likes to. But, you know, he decided not to live in Gracie Mansion, but Gracie Mansion is the official residence of the mayor, so bravo. So he certainly can live there with his family, and we wish him the best of luck in doing that.
Let's jump on the shuttle, go down to Washington, D.C. for a minute. Let's talk about President Barack Obama recently getting back from his trip from South Africa. A lot of controversy about this selfie picture that he actually took.
Yes.
I really don't want to even talk about that. I
Yes.
think that's something that we need to put on the side.
Yes.
What really brings to light my question is, has the Secret Service a big faux pas in allowing this translator to be right next to the president, and you've got murder and rape charges?
I mean, it's huge.
That's the question we're not talking about.
It's a huge issue. I mean, the guy that did this was, I think, well known to be someone who was not a very good. He was not a good sign interpreter, and clearly a person with issues. And the fact that he was standing so close to the president is a worrisome thing. So I think they, you know, sort of like that scandal that the Secret Service had, I think, in South America with hookers and all of that. And this kinds of things are very. That's not such a dangerous issue. Here you have actually a person standing next to the president.
And other world leaders. Not
that's right, and other world leaders. So I think that they goofed, and they have to be more careful in the future. But I have to say, though, that when you take the president to a foreign location like South Africa, that's not Washington, D.C., it's not Illinois, it's not California, that's a very risky undertaking, especially being in a stadium and giving speeches. Very tricky business. Very complicated business. But so they're not, I don't think, in charge of vetting each and every person who's going to be there. They're not in control of it. If the president speaks in Chicago, the Secret Service is vetting every single person who's on the stage and with the president. When you're in South Africa, you're depending on the South African security forces to protect our president. I think they also goofed in a big way, huge. So I think I wouldn't blame the Secret Service completely. I would blame, to be very candid, the South African security forces for doing a very poor job in having a person standing next to world leaders. Understandably, South Africa was preoccupied with Mandela's passing. It's a very big, very mournful issue for South Africans, but the security forces have to be able to focus and do their job. I don't think they did their job either. So I'd say we spread the blame on that one.
We'll share this more on perspectives when we talk about this a little bit later on. Let's move on to another topic here, because I want to talk a little bit about this nuclear deal.
Yes.
What exactly is it going to mean? Because a lot of people still having questions, and very controversial.
Right. Well, nobody really knows, because the 6-month period for the nuclear deal hasn't started yet. So we really don't know. But when the Treasury Department announced last week that they were going to clamp down on some of the companies that are dealing with Iran, the Iranians went berserk. So the chances for this deal are, I don't know, I'm not a bookie in Vegas or anything like that, and not a betting person, but not very good, because what you end up with is the potential for Iran really to become another North Korea. It's kind of going through the motions right now, but ultimately, really what it wants to do, its objective, is to become nuclear. How do we know that? First of all, they have a plant in Arak and in Fordo. They have these plants that have plutonium. Why does a country that has most of the oil resources of the world, oil and gas resources, greater than anyone in the world, need a plutonium heavy water reactor? There's no logic to it. The only reason they have that is because they want to go nuclear. This plan that has been negotiated, this temporary agreement, allows the Iranians to continue to enrich uranium. And that is a very risky business. As long as you can enrich uranium up to a certain point, you can jump to the nuclear point. So I think it's risky.
So let me ask this question. As far as Iran is concerned, this deal is made. The question is, how will it play domestically? Because the president obviously has made this deal. Many people are saying it's the worst deal that America can make.
Right.
Does this translate into the midterm elections?
Well, sure, but I think what's going to happen is when the 6 months are up, the president will punt it further. There'll be more interim agreements. You're absolutely right. I mean, this deal, I don't think the president should have this deal fall apart completely while we're coming close to the midterm elections. So I don't think that's going to happen. Right now, there's an interim deal. There'll be another interim deal and possibly another interim deal. No, he's not going to allow anything to interfere with the midterm elections. That's very, very crucial. There's a lot of potential here for the Senate to go Republican, and that the president has to work very hard to prevent.
When you talk about the President Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act,
That's right.
big on the hearts
That's
and minds
right.
of Americans right now, knowing that coming down to crunch time,
Yes.
a lot of a black eye for the president. Is he going to be able to recover before January?
Well, he just appointed this former Microsoft executive, Del Benny, to come on board and to fix it. So he's trying to do something about it. He's got to fix it.
But what does this say? I mean, when you talk about, you're sitting here, you're talking to Americans
That's
who
right.
are listening to
That's right.
testimony about the NSA.
That's
and
right.
the fact that you can tap people's phones.
That's right.
And you can't put together a website.
Well, that's exactly
Something's
the
wrong.
point. We talked about this the last time we had our discussion on this. The point is America, with its technology, can do anything, but it cannot set up a website that allows people to sign up for health care. That also shows something about America today, the most technological country in the world. The president just had a meeting with all the tech people. I'm sure he was talking about this with them as well. They're worried about surveillance. He's worried about Obamacare. So maybe they can work out some sort of a deal on this where the administration is not going to do as much surveillance and they're going to fix Obamacare. They have to do that. The problem is, as a federal judge has just declared that the NSA surveillance is unconstitutional. So now there's another wrinkle in Obama's portfolio coming into the midterm elections. So he's got some major, major issues. He's got to fix Obamacare or he's in big trouble. And I think bringing this guy on board is a good step. And he's got to get Sebelius out of there because she's completely off the reservation, and he got rid of this other guy. He's got to get some good tech people in there and fix that website, or else the midterms will go sour.
All right. Mark Myers, our political analyst. We encourage you to stay tuned to find him on Perspectives. He'll be breaking down more of the stuff in depth and be giving us his perspective there. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, as always.
All right. We're able now to go back to the phone.